Energy Media readers, everybody in Canada is looking to the unemployment number to see what kind of an impact COVID-19 has had on the national economy and on their own provincial economies. Well, in Alberta, we do have some preliminary numbers, and we've asked economist Mike Holden of the Alberta Business Council to join us today to talk about his numbers, and it's a big one, 27% unemployment. Mike, thanks for joining the interview.
Thanks for having me.
27% is a very, very large number. What does it mean for Alberta?
It's a measure of the impact that this is having. I mean, this is the kind of thing where you look around and you see, businesses are closed, people are staying home, nobody's working, and it's, the devastation to the economy has been incredible. And it's like the Alberta economy has been literally a house on fire for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And so this is the numbers that came out today was our first indication of what it's like an insurance adjuster coming to tell you what the cost of this is going to be, preliminary estimate of cost. And the problem is that the house is still on fire.
So where did the data, like I saw information that came from the Alberta Treasury branch, and it was 8.7%. What data did you have that they didn't have?
Well, back up with the 8.7%. So those are the official StatsCan numbers that come from the labor force survey. And it's not that those numbers are necessarily wrong. It's a question of the point in time that they were created. So that's the official unemployment rate for the month of March. But what StatsCan does is they conduct a survey in the middle of the month. And last month it happened to be from March 15th to March 21st. And so they conduct their survey during that period, and that's their assessment of the situation. The problem, and so normally in any normal month, it doesn't matter if it's the second or third week of a month, because not much changes from one week to the next. But in this case, it very much did. So that week was the week when schools were starting to close, social distancing started to ramp up, businesses started to shutter down or reduce their employment in hours. And so that was an early estimate. And there are a few specific issues with it. The one is that it doesn't include a whole bunch of Albertans who suddenly decided that they weren't even going to look for a job anymore. And if you're not looking for a job, you're not counted as unemployed. So that bumps it up. And then there are about 325,000 Albertans during that 1 week period who were technically employed but had 0 hours. So those are the numbers that tended to depress the 8.7%. So it would be significantly higher than that. And so where the 27% came from is that we were looking at some sense of what the current situation is. And the best way we found to do that is by looking at the various announcements and the data that were coming out on EI claims and CERB claims from the federal government. And so the announcement there was in the last 3-4 week period, there were 4.26 million claims that came in. And so even if Alberta just had its own proportionate share of that number, which is probably a conservative estimate, that means 480,000 Albertans are not working. And and so you run up to 27% very quickly.
I guess Alberta logically would be higher proportionally than other provinces because of course its biggest employer, the oil and gas industry, has also been hit with a global oil price war.
Yeah, and that's something that was also not reflected in the 8.7% unemployment rate number. Because if you look at where the job losses were, according to the official statistics, they were mostly in the areas you'd expect. They were in retail sales, they were in accommodation food services, they were in culture and recreation type of jobs, and in non-essential healthcare services. That's where the job losses were. There were not job losses reported in mining, energy, oil and gas, but that was just for that one period, which means, given the oil price crash, that those job cuts or job losses are still on the way, or were not captured in that little 1 week chunk.
Give us a sense, Mike, of what's likely to be the core jobs that are not lost during the pandemic. And so if we're at 27% unemployment now, that means 67% or 63%, sorry, are 73%. You can tell I was a history major, not a math major in university. But anyway, there's still a lot of jobs. And where are they?
Well, they're in the public sector for one thing. For the moment at least, construction jobs are still relatively active, and manufacturing for the moment, professional services, education, a lot of healthcare aside from that one segment that has been cut off. So there are a lot of jobs in those areas. We found that according to the official numbers that came out, good sector industries have done relatively well so far. The job cuts are all in services, and they all tend to, unfortunately, be in the kinds of jobs that are either part-time and or pay relatively low salaries. So it's hitting the people who are least able to afford it.
Are we seeing in Alberta a significant percentage of folks who can work from home do in fact do that? I mean, I've heard up to 50% of the workforce might be working from home on Zoom like we are today.
Yeah, I think they are, but I mean, there are only certain professions and occupations that will allow you to do that. And I think that those that can are. And so, a lot of downtown Calgary, a lot of the professional white collar jobs can work from home relatively easily. And so, I mean, even us at the Business Council, we're doing that. All of our colleagues and other organizations, associations, our member businesses, they're all doing that to the extent that they possibly can. But some jobs are unavoidably public facing or unavoidably out in the open. And so it's, it depends a little bit from one case to the next.
Yeah, gotcha. Final question, Mike. Is on this issue of working from home and the change in work that will come post-pandemic, are you expecting in Alberta that we'll see a significant percentage of workers change their work habits, start to work from home at least more often, if not entirely?
I honestly don't know. And I've given this some serious thought over the last few days. And, on the one hand, I think a lot of people, the companies that might have been reticent to allow their employees to work from home might discover that, in fact, it wasn't as bad as they thought. A lot of employees, on the other hand, might suddenly think that, getting into an office every day and having some social interaction is a lot more beneficial than they thought it was. So I think that in general, there will be a greater openness to that sort of work arrangement. Whether or not it becomes significantly more popular, I think really depends on the person and on the company.
Mike, thanks very much for this, and no doubt we'll be checking in with you in the near future to talk more about unemployment in Alberta. Thank you.
No problem. Thank you.